So, have you ever had the situation where somebody asks you for your opinion, and when you look at the thing they're asking you to give your opinion on, it stinks? And now you're forced with the dilemma of, do I tell them the truth, or do I potentially hurt their feelings and make them angry? Well, it turns out it's happening in comics. So, let's find out how. Hey there, this is Perch. Eric Larson did a tweet, did himself a little tweet thread where he talked about kind of this practice of creators, pros. He used the word amateur and pro, and I want to kind of change those words a little bit. It's more, seasoned veteran and newcomer is where I think I see this a lot, but it ultimately means the same thing to his point, where a newcomer or amateur, in his words, comes to the pro or veteran and asks for some feedback on the work they're doing, whether it's drawing or writing or scripting or whatever. And the pro, his complaint, I think, or point of the thread was that the pro doesn't give honest feedback, that instead they give very, very high praise, kind of, oh, this is perfect. Oh, this is great. What I'd call blow off praise. And then the amateur or newcomer kind of runs away with this kind of false sense of entitlement or a sense of security, at least. And then things don't pan out for them, or sometimes they do, and the pro or the vet just kind of talks behind their back and trashes them when they're not there, or promises to follow up. And this is one I've seen in person a million times. Well, not a million times; it's an exaggeration, but I've seen from several artists, several writers, including people I respect, where somebody will approach them, or more on the situation I'm in that keeps replaying is I'm sitting in a bar or having coffee or just catching up with somebody I know in the business, and this guy comes over to us and says, "Hey, I sent you that stuff you asked for. I sent you my scripts and my comps and I sent you my some of my sketches. I hope hope you got them." And the pro's like, "Oh yeah, I got them completely. It's really these cons are so busy. There's so much going on. I'll get to it, on the plane. I'll get home and I'll get there. But what I saw looked great. I think you're onto something. I'll take a look as soon as I get some time. I'll take a look." And then the newcomer kind of amateur guy kind of wanders away, feeling happy. And then the pro turns to me and's like, "I have no idea who that was or what they're talking about." Ha 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 ha. And it's like, and I'm like, ah, ha, 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 you dick. But that's how it goes. And so Larson's thread is basically, unfortunately, there's not a good conclusion to it other than hey, this practice is lousy, and maybe it's better to hurt somebody's feelings now than kind of try and coddle them to the point that they're going to have a false sense of entitlement or have their feelings hurt later when you never call them back or you never respond. Um, and a lot of people jumped on Larson like, "Hey, this isn't a new phenomenon." And what's weird about that, Larson never said it was a new phenomenon. But whoever, all sides are correct. It's not new. This has been going on for many, many a year, as us old people like to say. And it's also, I mean, this is not an uncommon scenario to, you're there, and here comes your girlfriend, your wife, your, whoever, and they're like, "Hey, check out my new haircut. Do you like it?" And it's like, "Oh, you went from a kind of long, kind of halfway down the back, nice haircut to something that is kind of a bob above the ears, and it added like 10 pounds to your face, and you look terrible." But you're like, and you have that same thought in your head, like, okay, what do I want to say? And you kind of, I always have this thought. You have this thought in your mind, of like, why did the hairdresser do this? Was this some kind of subtle attack against women, or what? Because it's your job to look at hair every day. Are you just bored? You're like, "Well, let's see what happens when we cut all this stuff off." It rarely looks good, and that's not fair. There's lots of people with short hair who look wonderful. All the people who know me who are listening to this are now offended. Now I don't mean it, and I'm not talking about you. But it's weird. It's the same thing. Like uh, girlfriend shows up and she's like, "Hey, what do you think of this new dress?" And it's like this weird thing that's got strange cutouts and patterns of fish on it, and you're like, "Yeah, you look terrible in that. That does all the wrong things for your body." And yet you would be like, "Oh, okay. Well, if I say that out loud, then they're going to be upset. So better to tell a little white lie here and be like, "Oh, you look great, honey. It's wow. Wow, look at the new you." I think you can always, I mean, hopefully, you can always tell when somebody's doing that because they start throwing out phrases that are completely unnatural, like, "Oh man, you're living the best life," or this is a new improved you. Nobody talks like that in real life. They're like, "Oh, you look good," or "Oh, it looks terrible." But if they start throwing around weird adjectives and phrases, then you know something is up. It's like, "Hey, look at the thing you. Wow, this is quite a big change. Oh, it's good. Yeah, it's good. You look good. It's very striking. It's very you. Hey, fresh. You look fresh, girlfriend. Fresh. No, those are not real words. Those are not real statements anybody makes. But anyway, the bigger topic that Larson brought up, I think, is an accurate one, and it is a problem of sorts because the industry, the comic industry, like I've talked about in other videos, is very catty. It is extremely backstabby, and there is a lot of. I mean, I'm always blown away when I'm sitting with three or four creators who are quote unquote a clique, and one of them like, "Oh, I've got to head out to this meeting or signing I'm meeting an agent or I'm doing something." Usually when it's something good, like I've been at this situation where there's a couple creators there, and then one of the creators like, "Well, got to get to my panel. I've got a panel, so got to get head on over to hall whatever to do my panel." And the other creators don't have a panel, so like, "Oh man, you're gonna do great. Yeah, looking forward to it. Oh man, we'll be in the audience. We'll be there." And then that creator wanders away, and the others sitting at the table like, "Oh man, that person's awful. I can't. Can you, why did they even invite her to be in a panel? Because she is awful. Like, or she never says anything interesting. The smack talk immediately like just comes in, and I'm like, I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, I'm gonna go to the bathroom. Do I want to leave like a little like my phone here recording? What's gonna be? Because I know the second I walk away, it's gonna be, "Hey, look at that funny face a hole who's doesn't know. Hey, Nate guy thinks he's in the business. He's not even in the business. Ah, did you see his little sketch? Boo." That there is that this industry more than I think any other industry I've seen, and now granted, I haven't seen them all by any stretch of the imagination, but it's really there's so much backstabbing and backtalk and jealousy and ego. It's just an amazing, and maybe it's just the factor of there's not enough money in it for people to really take it seriously. I think when you have an industry where there's a bunch of cash flowing in, there's less shenanigans because people are worried about losing that cash. And you'd think that people who are not making a lot of money and therefore need, everything they can get to survive would take the money part more seriously, but it doesn't work that way. It's like they know the monetary value of what they're doing is low, so it's almost like a reverse. They just don't take it seriously. They it's very odd. Um, and I think it's inherent to creatives in general. There's kind of a built-in ego and jealousy kind of and uncertainty and insecurity. Oh, a big swirl always going around. But I think, unfortunately, I think Larson's advice is right, but maybe not right for this industry. I think it is better to tell the truth. I think it's better to hurt somebody's feelings than give them kind of false hope. I think in a business, this is where it's a little bit different than a girlfriend who's asking about a dress or a haircut. In a business, again, there's monetary things going on. There's people who are making career decisions, who are maybe sacrificing things for this dream. And so if you're going to sit there and kind of praise them where they shouldn't get that praise, or at least they should get some negative with the positive, then you're doing them kind of pretty big disservice because they're need they're trying to rely on this as a future career for themselves, and so it's unfair to treat that casually. Hard to do though, very hard to do, and it is I think it falls into the whole thing of what you see on social networks where a lot of the creators will kind of talk and rebound things off each other. And it's, Tuesday, Wednesdays are always kind of not not head slapping, but just like, ugh, because there's often this swirl of like, oh my god, I just read this comic by creator I'm trying to suck up to. It is so amazing. How amazing this comic is. This was, I laughed, I cried, I had so many emotions. It's like it's a tw- it's it look, this issue of Moon Girl is good. I think it's fine. I think it's great for kids. I'm a fan of what they're doing with that series. Good for you. But you did not laugh and cry and go through an emotional rainbow reading this 22-page comic of Moon Girl. Just stop right there. Like if you are, I mean, Tom Taylor did, I think, a decently emotional kind of good issue recently in Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, where Spider-Man is kind of volunteering at a hospital, and there's a kid with, I think, cancer, leukemia, and he gets to be Spider-Man's sidekick, and he kind of gives this kid almost like a Make a Wish kind of thing, and it's sad. It's sad. I mean, I'm reading. I'm like, oh, this is a touching story. I'm not crying about it, and I'm not saying that to say I'm a man. I don't cry. I don't. I don't feel emotions that normal people feel. I'm not saying it to be a tough guy. I'm just saying it was a well done kind of emotional story that was in 22 pages featuring Spider-Man. And if you're gonna kind of have a swirl of emotions around that one, then you're gonna need a lot of sanitation from your TV and your media and other things. You're gonna need because they're like little episodes of Friends are going to bring you to tears. I'm dating myself a little bit with that. Episodes of 30 Rock are going. I'm still dating myself with that. Episodes of that terrible show with the nerds who live in an apartment together and they invent stuff. There, I covered like 5 current shows. Anyway, the point is, there is this sycophantic behavior that you'll see on social media where people like just endlessly, relentlessly praise, and then the creator kind of takes it up and retweets it, and it just creates a very fictional, bubbly universe that isn't necessarily helpful for anyone. And maybe the answer is the question that I've had of like, who's this comic getting made for? Because it doesn't seem like it's getting made for anybody. But if you're an editor, a comic creator, you work for a publisher, and you've kind of formulated your mentions to a point where all you're getting is kind of not just praise but goofy praise, then yeah, maybe you're like, you know what, I'm going to do a team up story between Spider Ham and Rocket Raccoon, and they're going to be fighting a gender bent Doctor Doom, and in the end there's going to be a musical number. It's like nobody wants that comic. There's no there, and there's by the way, there's somebody right now on social media is like, oh, that comic sounds pretty good. That comic sounds wacky and crazy. That's nice. You won't buy it though. You're just kind of being contrarian to be cool, but you're not cool. You're not buying the comic. Just stop with that. But I don't. I'm surly today. Anyway, I think that's the challenge that the industry has. Is a lot of it is built on kind of fake praise, not being completely honest, and then while the person's back is turned, just a relentless beating. And I think this is also why, if you talk to certain people who've exited the industry or certain editors, kind of after a long time, eventually the truth catches up to them. It's like, well, what do you mean? All my titles didn't sell, and what do you mean these 10 books I relaunched didn't go? If you picked up as Guardians of the Galaxy from, I don't remember, it was this week or last week, it's the final issue, and Cullen Bunn pins like a goodbye letter at the end, and it's heartbreaking to read it. Like it makes me sad to read this letter because it's all about, it's like, hey, I never thought we'd make it past 5 issues, but we got to 10. It's like, ugh, dude, no, you're making me now I'm getting sad. Now I'm going through the range of emotions from anger to frustration to sadness. No, don't. This is not good. But it is a case where, as I said before, you go to the cons, you look on social media, and the creators, the publishers are just treated like like conquering gods coming on, whether they're veterans or amateurs. They're all just like, everybody is awesome. These ideas are cool. Everything is great. And then there's the hard, ugly reality of the open market where these books come out and then they just die a very public, humiliating death. And I think that that's, I mean, it never leaves you happy. And there's one creator I was talking to, did a series that kind of became a mini series, and then it wasn't a mini series, and then it got canceled. And then, oh, we got some sales off of Scholastic, so we're going to bring it back. And they had a second run, second version of the series. And throughout the whole time, this series is just getting massacred on review sites that are not shills. And the creator had aggressively used block bots and other things to kind of control their little bubble, only to the review sites where people were getting free copies, so they're saying wonderful things, to people on social media be like, "My God, this is the best issue ever! So cool!" Which was one out of every 1,000 people commenting on the comic. And so, but eventually the time ended and it went off, and I think trying to get to an understanding of why this comic didn't wasn't why did it get canceled. The creator kind of created an alt account, or I don't remember if they unblocked everybody or what, but then they started to like raise the curtain. They're like, holy crap, people were just murdering my book. And it was it was the ugly wake up stick of truth of was this that this feedback was going on all the same time? Oh my God, why didn't I notice this? Why? And this creator is going, the feedback was, the editor betrayed me. The editor of this series was supposed to be seeing all these comments and helping guide me and tell me what was working, what wasn't, so I could have kept the book going. But instead, the editor just kind of let the book die. And I remember thinking, well, it is kind of your responsibility as a person writing the story to kind of search out, how it's doing. I mean, I wouldn't outsource that job to an editor person who, by the way, has the same blog bots and bubble setup that you do. So why you assume they're seeing it is, I don't know why you're assuming they're seeing it, because they're not. Um, that's it's just a weird, it's a weird situation. Hiding negativity, and granted, blocking, I've talked about it a lot. There are people who are just nut jobs who say gross and disgusting things, and that's their deal. That's what makes them happy. That's who they are. Yeah, I mean, shielding yourself from that stuff, can't blame you, can't argue with it. But you got to have a thicker skin. Then you have to be sure you're truly blocking the really nasty people who are saying insane things, not just the people who are disliking your book. Because in the end, whether you block them or shield them or you don't, you're going to wind up in the same place, and that's cancellation land. So it's better to go into it with your eyes open than to go into it with your eyes shut and then be surprised when, hey, maybe what your editor was telling you and maybe what the sycophants were telling you wasn't really true. And now you're done. I don't know. I guess there's a philosophy in life of like, would you rather hear the bad news honestly and openly, or would you rather people lie to spare your feelings? Like, how do you want to go through life? It's a tough question, and I think everyone wrestles with it in their lives. Of who do you want to be? Your call. You can be either, but you can't be both. and and from my standpoint, it's always better to know the truth. Every 100% every day, I'd rather know truth than to be misled, even if I don't like it, even if it's the worst news, even if it's going to spoil my day, my week, my month. I would rather know the bad news than to be misled and have the rug pulled out from under you. There's nothing good about that. It 100% of the time, it leads to trouble. And it's easy to teach people to do that to you. If you react to bad news, aggressively, if whenever you get bad news, you kind of get mad and throw a tantrum, then more people are going to lie to you. That is the result. So it's better to it's just better to you know train the people around you that even if you have a bad reaction, even if it's not what you wanted to hear, not what they wanted to hear, it's better to go in eyes wide open. I guess I've said that point now for like 2 minutes straight. I beat that point into the ground, which is the feedback I'd be getting if this was a live chat. So there you go. Hey, what do you think? Like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. What feedback? What do you want? Truth or lies? And how does it, how, in a broader sense, how does it impact all of us? And how does it change the way we look at comics and things? Let me know. Twitter, Comic Perch. Thank you for listening.